an element of genuine hate between these two, Ambrose.
For sure.
I don't hate the man. I just want his WBO title.
I personally do hate him. I personally do.
I come up the hard way. I didn't
I proved myself, boy.
You had your time. Let's have some parliamentary procedure here, all right?
It's hard to contain myself with him. Oh, he just said he's ready. He just said he's ready now. You know, I'm ready too. Do you know what I mean? What are you talking about?
Is this almost becoming too personal and too bitter, this rivalry now with you and Conor?
That's for the public to decide. I just have to deal with what's in front of me. I have to deal with the fact that I'm fighting a drug cheat, and I have to treat him in the way that any drug cheat should be treated.
Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, 65,000 people. What happens here on April 26th?
The procedure will be parliamentary.
What's going on, guys? It's your boy Rats from the Ice Cold Show. Come and get froze. And today we are previewing Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. And 30 years ago we had a great British event, boxing event, that captivated worldwide audiences and the British public. And now we have their sons about to do the same thing again. This video and this event is sponsored by Fatal Fury City of Wolves. If you haven't bought the game, seen the game, buy it. Yeah, because that's sponsoring the event and it's a legendary fighting game, so get to it as soon as possible. Once again, we have a big spectacle that's about to take place on April 26th at the Tottenham Hotspur Spurs Arena. So far, we've got a little timeline. If you haven't heard about it or seen it, I suggest you get to it right now. We have a certain amount of events that's taken place. We have the first press conference, we have the second press conference, and we have the Piers Morgan interview that's just taken place about 2 days ago. So we are going to deep dive into the fight and deep dive into the timeline of what's happened so far. First of all, as I said, the fathers of Conor Benn and Chris Eubank Jr. If you don't know who they are Chris Eubank Sr. and Nigel Benn. They fought in 1990. And it was a blockbuster event, it was a pay-per-view event, and it done really well, and the bitter rivalries took place and it happened. Senior won the fight, if I'm not mistaken, by stoppage in round 9. Slightly want to say round 10, but 9 off memory, and it was one for the ages. It's definitely a classic and vintage fight that's happened in British boxing. There's not much that's taken place that's been better. It was amazing. You saw the ITV contract, and yeah, they really didn't like each other. Like, Nigel really didn't like Senior, and Senior really didn't like Nigel. Matter of fact, Nigel said he hated Senior, but obviously he's retracted the statements of today. And yeah, they done well. They both had a successful career, both secured middleweight belts, and yeah, they still today have that rivalry going on. And it seems like the apple hasn't fallen too far from the tree. We have their sons about to do a spiritual part 3 fights that they had. They also fought in 2000, a few years later, for a second bout, which arguably, if you watch, you can see that Nigel Benn arguably won, but they gave it as a draw nevertheless. So we moved. That one wasn't as good as the original, but it was a big slugfest for both parties anyway. So yeah, so first we had a press conference that was really good. If I'm going to be honest with you, Junior was stealing the show. He was controlling everything. He was controlling the seating. He was controlling the room. He was controlling all the areas, all aspects of the press conference. And the younger Conor Benn was falling for the traps. He was falling for the traps. He was biting. But that's what we love about Conor Benn. We love his aggression. He's just like his old man. We love his, you know what you're gonna get, says what's on the can type attitude. And yeah, Chris was lovely. He was getting Eddie rattled, he was getting Conor rattled, he was getting Nigel rattled in that press conference. It was probably my favourite out of the three interactions that we have so far. I do feel like they should have spaced out the press conferences. I don't know why the press conferences was in such a short capacity for the fight. That's April 26th, but hey ho, you know what, Chris Eubank sold the fight, and so was Conor, so was Eddie, so was Benn. In the press conference, as I said, there was a lot of things going back and forth, talking about fathers. Conor was hitting Eubank with a nice point, like, your father doesn't even like you, and you know, Chris is almost sort of doing, you're my little brother, like, I've walked in your shoes before, and you have to make me have a rehydration clause, otherwise I'm going to beat you. And Junior is the bigger man. He's the bigger man, but that's not always the case in boxing. That's not how it always works. So we're yet to see how that goes down. And when they had the face-off just before they signed off, Chris had some eggs stacked in his jacket. And if you don't understand why he had eggs in his jacket, that's because previously, when this fight was meant to take place 2 years ago, Conor Benn tested for some illegal substances that shouldn't have been in his system, and he proclaims that it wasn't his fault. He proclaims that it wasn't him, but it was in his system, so the fight had to get postponed or cancelled. But Eddie Hearn, he was a man of his word. He did say it's postponed, he did say it's not cancelled, and 2 years later here we are. And I think one of the governing bodies, probably the British Board of Boxing Association, something like that, they concluded that it was down to some eggs, a high dosage of eggs, why Conor Benn tested for what he tested for. And that's what led Chris Eubank Jr. to have the eggs in his pocket, and he cracked Conor Benn over his head with an egg. And it all erupted, and I guess that's what sold the fight straight away. Like, that was trending on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, everywhere you saw it, that was trending. So that was some not really in Chris Eubank Jr.'s repertoire. That's not really his style, but I guess he had to sell out the fight somehow, and that's how he chose to do it, with some eggs. And he does think that Conor Benn is a cheat, or he's disappointed that this has happened, and fair enough. And you know, Conor, fiery, started him up. The security had to hold him back. Eddie gave Benn some shoves as well on stage. If you see it, you see Eddie pushing Benn. Bit of a cheap shot, you know. To be fair, like Eddie calling Junior pussy and stuff like that, when you pull a move like that yourself, like it's a bit cowardice, because Ben doesn't harm anyone. Ben's just here for business, to be honest. So there's not really much need for that. But fair enough, he done it. That also added a bit of spice to the fight. And yeah, that's how it concluded. Nigel Benn got involved as well. He snuck around security. He saw him sneaking around security, grabbed Junior by his throat as well. Crazy work. But that was the first press conference, so it was good. It was quite spicy. I would say it's 1-0 to Junior. If I'm being honest, like, he controlled everything. The second press conference, it was a little bit more calmer. It was a little bit more conducted manner. Junior again didn't let Eddie Hearn control anything. He didn't let Eddie speak. He was cutting him up, which we love. Doing Eddie every time he tried to speak, which was lovely. Conor was a bit of the same, slyly just still pressing on the point about Junior's dad, and you know, he said, I'll flatten you out in 6. So Conor's quite confident on his behalf. The second press conference, as I said, it was quite quiet. It was still nice. It still had a bit of that fear that it could go off at any second. They tightened up on the security. They didn't make them do a face-off as such, but they done some form of face-off standing on the pitch at Tottenham. And Conor Benn done a little dart charge. It was quite quick, to be fair. It was a big dash for Benn, and Benn was a little startled, but he's not a boxer, you know. Benn not a boxer, and Eddie Hearn was loving it. Little bit of a bullying on on Eddie's behalf and Conor's behalf, because Ben Shalom doesn't really trouble anyone, to be fair. But I guess that is kind of mirroring the two sides. So Junior's not really doing too much talking, he's just straight down to business, and so is Ben. Ben Shalom's not really doing too much talking, it's just business. And the promoters and Nigel and Conor, they're more reactive to what's going on. Like they're reacting to things that's going on. So the second press conference was quite calmer. It was nice. It was a nice little set. But as I said before, I don't know why they didn't separate their press conferences. I don't know why they were so close for a fight that's still somewhat weeks away. But look, it's definitely got the attention. It's definitely got the eyes. There's a lot of pre-sales that are on as well. Yeah, it's selling out pretty fast. As of a couple of days ago, we had Piers Morgan uncensored, and this was a little bit different. This encounter between both of them. This was a little bit different. This was a little bit personal between both fighters, and I did like this as well. It's an hour long. If you haven't seen it, go and see it. I might have to review it on the channel as well. Sub up. We're very close to 500 subs, so like the video, share it out and sub it up. So Piers was doing Piers things. Some people don't like Piers, some people like Piers. I think he's a little bit tongue-in-cheek for me, a bit hit and miss. But he's good at what he does sometimes, and he presented his interview quite well. He spoke about the parallels between their fathers, because there's a little bit of an underlying theme among these two fighters, how they parallel their fathers. They're very similar to their dads. They haven't fallen too far from the tree. So Junior's stoic, cold, classy, arrogant, confident as his father, and Ben very straight up front, very brute, very aggressive, very snappy, very transparent, just like the Dark Destroyer, and a destroyer they both are. So there's definitely some parallels between them. Also, the dynamics of relationships they have with their fathers, which is a little story that we've got in the background. Ben and his dad, they're very close. They're very tight. They embrace each other. They love each other. Not to say that Junior and his senior don't love each other, but they're visibly shown to love each other. Nigel's in his son's corner all the time. They enjoy each other. They're both quite proud of each other's achievements, and you know, they have a more of a closer bond to what we've seen on camera. Whereas the Eubanks are quite stoic, quite away, quite distant from each other. Even though quite openly both have said they love each other and they wish the best, but in terms of the boxing, Junior is saying he's got to keep his old man away. I don't know if it's to stay out of his old man's shadow or his man was too hands-on, but that's just what he felt. And I think Senior's done such a good job with Junior. That's why Junior's done what he's done, because I think they both definitely need each other. But Junior's leading the lonely warrior's path, which he embraces, to be fair, and he's doing a good job. Like it or not, he's doing a good job. He's got to where he's got to today with his dad's help, but also as a man on his own back. So credit to them. So there's a parallel in those two stories. So we're gonna see how it concludes itself. Piers was piercing at some points. He was basically trying to say about the parallel of their relationship and talking about also both fathers injured, life-threatening injuries to some of their opponents that they had back in the day. Whereas Senior hurt somebody really bad, probably Michael Watson, something like that. And he's found it hard to almost come down from that as a fighter. And so was Junior, to be honest. Junior has also hurt a fighter with some serious injuries. Piers was basically just trying to say, do you not have any fear about these things? So did Nigel. Nigel also hurt a fighter as well, if I'm not mistaken. Life-threatening injuries. So Piers was just speaking about these things and trying to open up some wounds from both fighters. And I must say, Conor did fall for the trap. he did soften up and say he doesn't wish that. It's not a bad thing. By no means is it a bad thing. But he said, yeah, like he doesn't want to hurt Junior. He wants him to get back up, and he wants him to repair his relationship with his dad. And Junior was just the same, just quite stoic, the same, quite cold, and basically explaining that this is the ring, this is what we do, this is how we handle things, and this is the risk that you take when you enter the ring. So this is why I'm upset that you've tested for what you've tested for, because it enhances the tragedy to happen. So yeah, I did think Conor did fall for that trap, but he's the younger opponent, so he is going to be a little bit more naive. Hopefully not in the ring, but definitely in the interview. That's how it happened. But yeah, it was good. The Piers Morgan one, I think that was a bit better than the second press conference for sure. And Junior said something along the lines of, if Nigel touches him again, he's not going to get his hand back. And that jolted a reaction from Conor, because he loves his dad, you know, as any man should. He loves his dad, and he got up and said, yeah, we can have it out now, we can have it out now, as he would. And yeah, they both got up in their stances, and security held them between each other. So it was good that no hands were thrown. But yeah, it was a good one. It was a mixture between personal and also about the fight as well. Like, good promotion from Piers on his channel, and speaking about obviously the drug stuff, and he opened a lot of cases, a lot of things to do with this fight. Piers unpacked. So you know what, credit to him, because we got to learn a lot about both fighters, internally and externally. But getting to the fight itself, Chris is the bigger man. He just is. He's the bigger man. Conor's the smaller man. Conor's having to go up 2 weight classes, if I'm not mistaken, to 160, and Junior is a bit dehydrated because there's a rehydration clause, or he can't rehydrate too much following the next day for the fight. So does that make it even? Does that make it 50-50? Let me know in the comments who you have for this fight, and what you think it's gonna be like. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm fair, but on this channel I am a Eubank family man. I do like the family, I do respect the family, that they are my preference. I like the stories that they have, I like the charm. Not to say I've got anything towards the Benns. The Benns are also electrifying and dynamic, but this is a Eubank family friendly channel. So I do think Junior does stop Conor. I think if he can weather the storm from Conor Benn, if he can weather the first 6 rounds and probably weigh on him a bit later, I do think that Chris will stop him. I hope Chris stops him, because it will be better for his career. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm sure Turkey is saying the next person that wins this fight will go forward to a title fight, or I'm assuming like Canelo. I heard something about Junior talking about Canelo being on the horizon, and you know Turkey's got Canelo right now. So it will be interesting to see how it pans out, because Conor's no muck. He is no muck. It is going to be a bit difficult for him. He has no time to get used to the weight. He's just gone up 2 weight classes, so will that have an effect on him? But he is quite electrifying. If he can get in, if he can get on the inside and do some damage to Junior, if Junior's guard is not high, if he's not paying attention like he did for that Smith first fight, then he will get hurt. You know, he will get hurt, because Conor is explosive. He's an explosive fighter, just like his dad. He will throw nails and irons at Junior if he's not careful. So Junior has to have his guard up. He has to use his range well. He has to use his length well, because he's the bigger, the taller man. He has to use his range. He has to use that uppercut. I think that uppercut will be quite deadly for Junior. He has to use that uppercut for Benn to get him to respect the power, and not be so comfortable coming on the inside to fight. So I do have Chris Eubank Jr. stopping him in the 9th or 10th round. I'm going to parallel it just like their dads, because it will be ironic, and that's how life is sometimes. Sometimes life is ironic. So yeah, make sure you're there April 26th. Don't move. It is a British clash of the ages. It is Fatal Fury. So make sure you're there. It's your boy Rats from the Ice Cold Show. Come and get froze. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe and share. I'm out.